Welcome back to Class 4 History. I hope you all are fit and fine and all set to explore a new lesson in history. Let us start today with Chapter 2, Understanding CE and BCE. Before I proceed with this lesson, I want you all to look at this board very carefully and tell me what is missing on this board. Yes, you're correct. The date. The date is missing on this board. Now tell me, what is a date? Where do we find dates? We count days using numbers called dates, and we find dates in a calendar. Dates are arranged in a chronological order, that means in a correct order in a calendar. There are two ways to write dates. I'll show you. Suppose today is 20th May. So 20/05/2020. So this is the first way. The second way is 20th May 2020. We'll read this date as the 20th of May 2020. Now let us see what is a calendar. A calendar is a system of dividing time into day, month and year. So a calendar is a system of dividing time into day, month and year. A calendar is very important to us. We need a calendar to organize our lives in a better way. We mark all important dates like birthday, anniversary, festivals, function, etc. on a calendar. We also need a calendar to plan out our outings, meetings, appointments, picnics and so on. So calendar help us to lead a organized life. Calendar. Let us learn more about calendar. The most commonly used calendar all over the world is the Gregorian calendar. Let me write it on the board. The Gregorian calendar. The calendar that we use is a Gregorian calendar. The Gregorian calendar was started or introduced by Pope Gregory XIII in October 1582. It was originated in Europe, where most people were Christians. The birth of Jesus Christ is considered as one of the most important events in history. Therefore, the Gregorian calendar takes the birth of Christ as its starting point. It is also a solar calendar. It is developed keeping in mind the movement of the earth around the sun as its base. According to this calendar, a year has 365 days. These days are further divided into 12 months. In each month we have 30 or 31 days. The second month of the year, that is February. February has 28 days. Every fourth year is a leap year. In leap year, we have 366 days. That is, in the month of Feb, we don't have 28 days. We have 29 days. So in a leap year, in the month of Feb, we have 29 days. Before the Gregorian calendar, people in Europe used the Julian calendar. The Julian calendar was started by Julius Caesar. Now let us learn what is a timeline. But before we proceed, I want you to identify this famous personality. Yes, you're correct. He is Mahatma Gandhi ji. His original name is Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. Karamchand is his father's name. The word Mahatma was given to Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi by Rabindranath Tagore. Now I am going to put some of the important events of his life along with the years on the board. In 1917, he established Sabarmati Ashram in Gujarat. In 1893, he worked as a lawyer in South Africa. In 1869, he was born at Porbandar in Gujarat. In 1922, he started non-cooperation movement. In 1947, India got independence. In 1888, he sailed to England to study law. In 1948, he was assassinated, means killed, by Nathuram Godse in Delhi. In 1915, he returned to India. Now observe these events very carefully. These events, what I have stuck on the board, are not arranged in correct order. So it is very important when we talk about some important events, we need to arrange them based on the years in a correct chronological order. Chronological means a series or records of events in which they occurred. Now, look at the years. So, tell me which event will come first? Yes, the birth. That is 1869. So, let me remove this. This will not come first. Based on year, this will be my first event. Gandhiji was born in 1869. Then, the next is, look at the year. 1888. He sailed to England to study law. Let me remove this. Once he graduated, he worked as a lawyer. That is, in 1893, he worked as a lawyer in South Africa. Then, he came back to India. That is, 1915. He returned to India. Then, as soon as he returned back to India, Sabarmati Ashram in Gujarat, that is in 1917. And in 1922, he started with non-cooperation movement. During those days, British ruled in India. Finally, after lot of struggle with Britishers, in 1947, India got independence. And during 1948, the very next year, he was assassinated, that is killed by Nathuram Godse in Delhi. Now I have arranged these events according to the years in which they occurred. So now tell me, what is the timeline? So what is a timeline? A timeline arranges the various events of the past in a correct order according to the dates in which they occurred. Years are written with letters or abbreviations CE and BCE after them. Now let us understand what these letters or abbreviations mean. The letters CE stand for Christian era and the letters BCE stand for before the Christian era. As we all know, the Gregorian calendar uses the birth of Christ as its starting point. Now let me explain you all the CE years and BC years using a timeline. Let me draw a horizontal line. Let me mark the center of the line as 0. The 0 represents the birth of Christ. The years after the birth of Christ are referred as CE, Christian era, and the years before the birth of Christ are referred as BCE, before the Christian era. Earlier, the CE years were called as the AD years. AD means Anno Domini in Latin, which means in the year of the Lord. Similarly, the BC years were called as the BC years. BC means before Christ. The years after the birth of Christ are counted forward. So the years are over here are counted forward. That means 100, 200, 300, 400. And the years before the birth of Christ are counted backward. So here it is counted backward. So 100, 200, 300, 400. The years after the birth of Christ have CE written after them, whereas the years before the birth of Christ have BC written after them. For example, here we will write 100 CE and here we will write 100 BCE. It is interesting to note that when we count the BCE years, the year 400 BCE comes before the year 100 BCE, whereas when we count the CE years, the year 400 CE comes after the year 100 CE. As you know, a year has 365 days. So 365 days make 1 year. So a period of 10 years is known as 1 decade. A period of 100 years is known as 1 century. So the years from 1 to 100 years constitute first century. The years from 101 to 200 years belong to second century. The period from 701 to 800 years are referred to 8th century. Now I want you all to focus on the first digit of these numbers. First century, second century, 8th century. Now students, I want you all to find out in which century do we live in.